Welcome to Hey Clarity. I'm your host, Lindsay, and today we're doing a collective reading on the new moon in Pisces. So circle in your calendar the corresponding full moon in Pisces for September 7th of 2025. And this is the story that's going to unfold. So for the new moon in Pisces, we're going to ask the questions, what is the energy of this new moon? How can we work with this energy? What story is beginning? What are the best intentions to set? And what's the most important message we need to know? New moon in Pisces. Let's get into it. What is the energy of this new moon? They're like voices, voices, voices. And it's interesting because as soon as I started opening the records or even like talking, I have this like kind of like activation in my throat chakra. So you can see I kind of sound hoarse, like my voice isn't very strong. So I thought that was interesting because it was before I started this reading. So there's something around our voices. They're saying share voices, the sharing of voices. And it's coming in like the collapsing of like our healing releases. So they're like, we are getting like really like energetically like amped up and overwhelmed and exhausted. They're like extremes, like to the extremes. Like this is unbearable. This is incomprehensible. This is unfathomable. Our systems, our nervous systems, they're saying shocks. These are shocks to our nervous system, and they're like long-term effects. So the overwhelm, the more like activating emotions that are coming up, angry, right, rage, all of these sadness, like all of the inner turmoil is bringing up to these places of collapsing, but it is for a healing release. So, for example, imagining that someone is so angry and they're, stomping around and yelling at people and, just very aggressive in their behavior because they're so angry. And then they start crying. They're like the brink, like you reach that tipping point where then you just, you're vulnerable, you're raw, you start crying, you're filled with sorrow and sadness. And like that, they're like crying, they're showing like tears flying out of like a baby. And they're just like, it's a very healing release that we're having. So the collapsing is intentional to have this healing release. Our very like tense and aggravated emotions are going to essentially burst, to open us, they're saying, to have this like grief, to have all this like, they're saying removing of this energetic frequency, chaotic energetic frequency, they're saying. We are not meant to hold this. We are not supposed to be holding this. They're saying that this energy that is coming at us and that we are being triggered by is not for us. It's not meant for us. And it's not made for us. Like this is like on another level, they're saying inhumane. This is something that is inhumane and it's not human. It's not humanly possible to withstand this chaotic energy. Okay? So again, the energy of the new moon in Pisces is this kind of collapsing into this healing release. And this is good for us because we can't hold all of that. We're not supposed to hold all of that. That's going to come out and then we'll feel better after. They're like in a way. At least not having that pent up kind of rigidity, they're saying, in our systems. So you will emotionally, internally feel a bit better once you have these healing releases. And then this is like the sharing of the voices. So it could come that like Maybe you get angry and you're sick, like the voices, oh my God, it's so strong. They're like, yeah, talk about the sharing voices. So what they're saying is, whether you're turning to, friends or family, like your closest loved ones, or a therapist, or they're like, even if it just kind of, comes out with a stranger, these sharing our voices, we're going to be so like compassionate. We're going to be so pleasantly surprised that when we're sharing how we feel, that those around us are feeling the exact same way. And so that gives us this togetherness. It's this, like they're saying, resilience, this shared togetherness. So sharing your voices, and part of this collapsing is, you're going to be saying something to someone. You're going to be talking about it. It's just going to come out. And then it's just like, kind of like they're saying, it sparks and ignites conversations, communication, and connection. How can we work with this energy? They just said allowance, like super fast. They were like, allow it to happen. They're like, the vulnerability, like allow it. It might be ugly. It might be messy. It might come from confrontation, but it's meant to be. And kind of in the aftermath, they're saying there are reflections, like the most powerful reflections about our emotional reactions and interactions, how we carry ourselves, how we conduct ourselves in these extreme conditions. They're like first draft, first round. Like, this is a new level of heightened activity in our systems. Feels like it's like the beginning of like being conditioned to like chaos for a time. They're saying for some time into the near future. And so it's almost like this is breaking us in a little bit. They're saying of like what's to come, as far as recognizing our capacity and our tolerance for chaotic energy, and building up our boundaries. Like, no, I do not have space. I don't have time. I don't have capacity for this. Like, all of this is going to be coming up in our systems. Our nervous systems are going to be like really like shaking and shut down sometimes. So they're saying, unfortunately, this is like a level of like building our strength. This is a way that we will be adapting. This is adaptability in the nervous system. It's like this next level. So if you are feeling a very activated nervous system, tending to it, like really paying attention to it, is your first priority. And that's why you're seeing like more and more studies, more and more research, more and more programs addressing the nervous system. These are our like most heightened activations right now. And so we need to safeguard ourselves. We need to, they're saying, cherish our human body and feel more settled in our lives. And so we are going to have these extremes in this chaotic energy that is going to really like blind us with our tolerance level. What can you tolerate? What can't you tolerate? And they're like, you'll be like closing things out. You'll be shutting things down. You're like, this triggers the hell out of me. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. And like, you're just gonna be, they're like, shut down. You're gonna be like shutting down and shutting off all these things. They're kind of saying like the media, duh. They're like obvious, like obviously. Like you're gonna wanna just turn off the TV, or wanna just turn off all of these news outlets. So how can we work with this energy? Allow it. Allow it, because there's information. They're like, you cannot stuff this down. You cannot hide this. This is inhumane, the way that we are energetically being treated. And so don't think you have to muscle through it. They're like, you're not going to be able to. Like, everyone's going to go through these breakdowns and these breakthroughs because this chaotic energy is inhumane. So working with this energy is to allow it, allow the collapsing, allow the healing release, allow it to be ugly and messy, allow for the connections and the vulnerability to happen with the people that are around you while you're going through it. It's okay. They're like, everything is okay. Your communities, the people in front of you, like that's what's going to be highlighted here. That's what's going to be highlighted. You're going to see these golden people, these golden opportunities. The people who nourish you and support you are going to be more prominent in your life because they're just going to feel like such a relief. Being around them, speaking to them, working with them, they're going to alleviate so much of that stress and that pain, the painful suffering, they're saying, of the chaotic energy, that you are just going to naturally gravitate towards those people. They're like making new connections. They might be new people. They might be people from your past that you remember as being this loving, nurturing, embodied person. And you're like, oh, that person, come here, What story is beginning under this new moon in Pisces? They said refinement. Refinement. Ooh, that feels good. So it's like, we're like stripping things down. We're teasing through things. It's soft, right? It's like what's clear, what's clean, what's light, what's soft. There's this refinement. There's like a gentleness. The story of refinement. And they're saying it starts off as being soft, to be this very clean, clear, almost reset. How is it going to be unfolding? So the story that's beginning is around the word in refinement. And then how does this unfold? They just said smoothly. So it's like refinement. And then the story into September 7th is like smoothly. Things like you have bumps and then smooth and bumps and then smooth, like almost like we're working out the kinks along the way. And then it's like come September, this refinement turns into this like solid foundation of something. So it becomes something almost tangible, material. This like well-built foundation. And we've been talking about foundations and new foundations for months now. So this is continuing. We're still building this foundation, these new foundations. We're still making these new foundations. And we're in a refinement period now. What are the best intentions to set during this new moon in Pisces? What are the best intentions to set? Help, support, connection, communication. The best intentions are like finding your people and like making those new connections or reconnecting with those old golden connections. The intentions are around help and support. Like make it a priority that you find or reconnect with those individuals and communities that are nurturing and supportive and open. These safe spaces. They're like, is it in person? Is it online? Is it with friends? Is it with family? Do you love some of your colleagues at work? Maybe you have a little like lunchtime. They're like lunch break. Take a lunch break with the colleagues that you love. Go hang out, have dinner, drinks after work with the colleagues that you love. Like make those connections intentional. So like really reaching out and making sure that you're getting help or support. And if that's a therapist, is that some sort of mental health professional, do that as well. What's the most important message we need to know about the new moon in Pisces? What's the most important message we need to know about the new moon in Pisces? it's healing pieces of us. It is healing pieces of us that are very raw and tender, like kind of like the most painful wounds that we are carrying. We're having this almost like the healing release is like a balm over those wounds. And this balm is like sinking deeply into the wounds so that they're saying finally get moving, so that eventually when those wounds heal, you can finally get moving. You can finally move forward. You can finally begin moving on to the next thing, the next level, the next place, the next people. So it's like this medicine, this balm that is, they're kind of saying like seeping, like penetrating through the pores of it's like being embodied. It's being embodied. But it's like these long overdue wounds. And I'm seeing like the wounds are like, they're very hot. They're like irritated. I can see that they're like sore and they look painful. And so we will be feeling the pain. We will be feeling the suffering, whether it's emotional that manifests into physical, mental that manifests into physical. Like we are going to be feeling the pain and the suffering in these very loud, noisy ways where our bodies, like our alarms are going off. That's enough. That's enough. I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. And it's like, you have to go dark. You have to be like, what do I need? What do I need to do for me? And it can be very confronting, and it can be ugly, and it can be messy, and that's okay. But when you go deeper into that, you need to ask yourself, what do I need? And they're like, it's likely like help and support. It's likely, people, your safeguards, community, therapists, whoever you can find to support you. And they're showing like all these hands and arms like crossed over each other, almost like woven together. Like all these hands are reaching for each other and holding each other's hands, but then it like crosses into like something woven, like this woven kind of ground of all these arms and hands. And it's just like, now that's a strong foundation. It's like the hands aren't just holding side by side, like they're crossed and woven through. So then that becomes like a very sturdy foundation. So this is very much like they're saying network and connections. And it's based on something that's like really deep and true. Your relationships are based on something that's really deep and true, like your deepest vulnerabilities, because those might be the conversations, the shared voicing that you're, connecting with people on. So, and they're like core values, right? It's coming from the heart. It's coming from the core of you. It's coming from your core belief systems and, again, your values. So it's very much a time of this like truth and authenticity. And they're like, even if it's met early on with messiness, ugliness, whatever has to happen to get to that point, they're like, it's okay. Like those parts will pass. It's what happens like after that, these healing releases and everything after that matters. Okay? Okay. So that was the Akashic Records on the new moon in Pisces. I hope you enjoyed that. How you doing? Let me know how you're doing in the comment section. This is super, super duper rough times. Hang in there, and thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time.